Hello, and welcome to another episode of not Fat Man Beyond, Black Man Beyond, because our boy Kevin Smith is off in the bosom of his origins in New Jersey, watching his movies pop up and doing a podcast with Jason Mewes, leaving me to my own devices. We are not at the Scum and Villainy Cantina today because it seemed as if without Kev, there was no real reason for me to drive anywhere. And also, in order to preserve any sense of I don't know, viral decorum, that for my special guest host, Yetide Badaki, we would just do it on Zoom like, people are supposed to do. Also, she is in the desert preparing for a zombie apocalypse.
I am in the desert preparing for, well, who isn't, though, at this point?
Who isn't?
Right.
It feels like we're at the time where every other plague
is locusts, murder hornets. I mean,
like evil mosquitoes, fires, earthquakes, droughts, hurricanes. I feel as if we are in the third act of like a biblical apocalypse movie.
Pretty much. But I also would want to give that writer notes and say, maybe you don't want to be so heavy-handed.
Too much? Like
yeah,
maybe yeah. a lighter touch, I think we get it.
Ease off it.
Yeah. Is it possible to have too many steaks? Because I feel like we kind of do.
Too many steaks. I think 2020 is the prime example of too many steaks.
Yeah, we could all use a rewrite on this year. But I am so glad that you were able to make some time to hang out with me tonight, because we've wanted to do this for a long time. At least a year, I think, maybe more. We've been trying to figure out, like, you were off in the hinterlands of Canada, shooting American Gods, and we were here, and then Kevin was on tour, and I was like, now's the time, and you were like, I can maybe make it back this weekend, I don't know, and it just didn't work. But today we got it.
Yeah.
Today we friggin' got it. So we did it, everybody.
Mm-hmm. I'm so excited. I'm also a little nervous. It's a combination of both.
Don't be nervous. This will be the easiest thing. This is just like, a Zoom you would always ordinarily do with a person.
Right. I figure you're going to get unedited Yetide because you, Mark.
Outstanding. We win. When did we first meet? I was trying to do, it's so hard to do this sort of like digital, detective work to figure out when you met somebody you mostly know from the internet.
Car chase?
What now?
The car chase.
Yes. We went out to dinner. We were both invited to dinner by Sci-Fi Wire's Cher Martinelli, who was in town. And she's like, meet me for dinner. And I said, okay, I'm happy to do that. And I didn't know that she also invited other people, because she's also from Jersey, and Jersey people are rude.
I did not say that. That's all Mark.
That's all me.
Yeah.
I also lived in Jersey for a long time, and I have love for Jersey, and yet. But you were at this dinner, and we were at some taqueria in like West Hollywood or something, and we were eating, and then suddenly, and there was drinking and eating, and then there was a car chase like on the news, and that took over like the latter half of that evening.
It pretty much took. I mean, what else can you focus on when there's just like this high-speed chase where they ended up going into like a subway tunnel? And then they
did.
Remember?
It was badass. Like,
it was amazing.
It was like Speed, but for real, where like these do like Speed meets the Italian Job, or like, is it meets the Fast and Furious? Like, is this a heist? What do they say? Why are they in the subway tunnels in downtown LA? Who does that?
Yeah.
Who thinks that's a good idea? Dom Toretto thinks that's a good idea.
Yeah, but I remember that's the first time we met, and then we just kind of kept on geeking out after that, didn't we?
I know, because I always relish finding another geek in the wild, and because, not to say that we are few and far between, but we are few and far between. Especially sort of geeks of color, and especially geeks of color who are sort of professionally at work making geek shit. It is a relatively small club. So to find one that you didn't know was one, you're like, oh, where have you been hiding?
Where have you been all my life? And one of my favorite things was it last year San Diego Comic-Con where
Yes.
you got to walk the floor and there you were and you made me so happy.
And it was one of those, because I have been for a long time. That was the last Comic-Con. This would have been my 20th Comic-Con, like in a row.
Wow.
And so I've gotten to the point where I visit the floor sort of like twice a convention over those 5 days. It's like the first day that I'm there, I'll do get the lay of the land. And then the last day I'm there, I'll do like my last minute shopping and stuff.
Right.
But I just happened to have a signing on the floor that day. And so I was like, let me just walk. Let me go to Artist Alley. I haven't been to Artist Alley yet. I want to see who's down there. And so is that Yetide just kind of tooling around? Like just chilling as you do.
Hanging out.
I'm in fucking Comic-Con, man. What else am I supposed to do?
What's up? And I was there again, thanks to Cher Martinetti. Her name's coming up a little bit. But yeah, I was doing the sci-fi Instagram takeover, Sci-Fi Wire or Sci-Fi Fangirls.
That's right. So I found you on the floor, and then we just walked around for like an hour, and you took over an Instagram account, and we found a bunch of cosplayers that were awesome. I remember we found like the Us family.
They were so good.
Who was just badass and frightening.
And a boombox too, playing the music.
They did, which was amazing. But like that's my favorite experience of Comic-Con, is walking around and having interesting, amazing things happen without plan. Like, because I've planned to see people at Comic-Con and those plans fall through. It feels like it's a place that rewards happenstance in the best way. And that was super fun. So yay. Yay us for letting the random fate thrust us together on the Comic-Con floor. But tell the people who might not know the long and wonderful Yetide Badaki story.
Want it all the way from the beginning.
Let's go all the way back. Like let's go to the motherland.
Well, we are going to the motherland. You know that. You also know my name means mother is back, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's because I was born a year after my grandmother died. So basically I'm my grandmother.
Well, excellent. we are all, the ancestors are coming through us at all times.
This is true.
My name doesn't mean very much.
It means friggin' awesome.
Well,
know this?
I didn't see that in the baby book. It's like, which one of these names mean friggin' awesome? Oh,
Mark and Bernard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think literally just means to note.
Interesting. But yeah, it started in the motherland. It started with I always talk about stories by the fire, with the elders. I have a lot of family. I don't know if you know this. I have a lot of family.
How much is a lot of family?
Like, I think my granddad had maybe around 10 wives or something.
Damn.
Yeah, on average, they all had like maybe around 10 kids each. These are not exact numbers.
We're rounding up.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, I'm always running into family all around the world. And I actually think there's a family connect with Wumi on Lovecraft.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We found that out running into each other at an audition. I still remember we were there and she's like, yeah, I just saw your family but I digress.
You digress. So the beginning is in Nigeria, yes?
In Nigeria. Stories by the Fire is where storytelling became a huge thing for me. If you ever get the chance to listen to elder Nigerians tell stories, it's an experience. It really is. And it wasn't until recently I realized that I hadn't actually seen Back to the Future 2 when I thought I did, because it was a cousin who had traveled and seen the movie and was telling all of us. And it was so wonderfully done that I remember watching the movie. I'm like, no, that doesn't happen there. No, that's not how it goes.
The oral tradition.
the oral tradition, right? But yeah, I was born there, but then from 3 to 6, I spent that time in England.
Hmm.
Went back to Nigeria until I was 12. There was quite a bit of unrest at that time,
Mm.
and which I've kind of jokingly, but not said, the way things have been happening here. I was joking to someone the other day. I'm like, I feel like kind of have been transported back to Nigeria with the rolling brownouts and it's yeah, it's a little surreal.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. I'm so Nigerian to England, back to Nigeria, then to the States.
Yeah, then to the States from 12 to 16.
Hmm.
And I started college at 16.
Hmm. Ooh, you're so smart.
Not really. I'm really good at, what do they call it, cramming?
Ah, that would help with the learning the lines real quick.
Yeah, cramming kind of came into the picture there. But that took me to Montreal
Okay.
for undergraduate. And that's where I continued to be able to sneak in some theater
Nice.
until it became my major. And then
Is that McGill University?
Yale University.
It
Yeah.
is literally the only college I know in Canada.
Is it Shatner?
Big, no, actually, because I mean Shatner helps, but another TV writer friend of mine, John Rogers, is a graduate from McGill in physics. Like he's got one of the biggest brains I've ever met, and then he went into TV writing. I'm assuming for the money. I don't know what physicists make, but
Yeah, McGill is a big science school. But what's
yeah.
weird is I know a lot of people who went to McGill, did the science majors, and then they're here in LA writing and painting. It's fascinating.
Again, it must be the money. Like I remember seeing a news story about a football player, plays for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think, Laurent Duvernay Tardif, who is also a medical doctor who graduated from McGill University. And I'm like, that must come on. Why isn't any Canadian I ever hear that went to college went to that college?
Went to McGill. But I remember hanging out at the Shatner building a lot, which technically we weren't supposed to call it the Shatner building, but like,
Yeah. Oh, come on.
yeah, who was not going to call it that?
Did it have a very nice toupee? Is that why it's called the Shatner building?
I don't remember. It's like the student building, and I don't remember why it's people first started calling it that. I remember why they said officially we shouldn't, because it wasn't like something he had dedicated.
Right. Somebody else paid a lot of money for that building that wasn't William Shatner.
But we all called it the Shatner building because.
Oh, well, good for you, Bill.
Then after that was auditioning for grad schools.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember that trip to New York. Me and my roommate went down. We had no money, so it was like a bag of bagels we bought for the weekend.
Excellent.
And then the hotel, if you wanted light in the bathroom, you had to unscrew the light bulb. And like, plus you also didn't want to look too closely at what was happening in the lobby. It was
Yeah.
an experience.
One of those.
Yeah. But that got me into Illinois State University.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Outstanding. Yeah. I feel like I remember I went to a doctor. I had a doctor's appointment the other day. Yeah. And a woman's like, "Where are you from? Your cell phone number?" It's like, "Where's that area code?" So I go to New Jersey. She says, "Oh, you don't have a New Jersey. You don't have an East Coast accent." I was like, "Well, here's the thing. My mother was born in the States. My father was born in Haiti, and I grew up in New York. And so all of those strong accents collided and have resulted in just neutrality.
You just cancel each other out.
They just all cancel each other out. And so I wonder if a lot of your international kind of hopscotching leaves you with a timbre and a sound that doesn't betray."
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. And plus, I heard a lot of different dialects. Elementary school. And yeah, it's usually voice coaches and stuff that can tell immediately that I'm not. They're like, you have no regionalism at all. It's very transatlantic,
So when did your when did your nerdery
Mm.
begin to evince itself? Like a mutant in the X-Men. Was it like 14 years old along with puberty? Was it before then? Was it after then?
I mean, I guess I'm that rare. Well, not rare, but I'm an early mutant then, because
Mm.
it was pretty much from the get go. I mean, those stories by the fire, yes, there's a lot of, great God stories and things like that there, mythology. And then I love Norse mythology and Greek mythology. And I mean, as soon as I could pick up something to read, I was looking at that stuff, and I was reading a lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't have at like 6 years old.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I remember, but my uncle was a professor, and I remember going to his place, and he had I think it was the Hans Christian Andersen, um, the fairy tales. Was it Hans?
Mm.
It's the ones where they're all just really bloody.
Oh, Grimm's fairy tales.
Grimm's, there we go. And everyone died, and people's
Yes.
feet were cut off. And I just
Mhm.
remember returning it with like this look on my face, like that was not what I was expecting.
But do you have more?
You have more though. Exactly. And from there, like things like Ray Bradbury, Stephen King, Isaac Asimov, as far back as I can remember, those things all really appealed to me. And then as far as TV, I remember when we got satellite television,
Mm-hmm.
and there was Star Trek Next Generation.
No.
And that, I mean, my whole worldview is based off of that.
I mean, it's a fair way to build a worldview. I mean, if you have to choose a fictional system of government and ethos and morality, like Next Gen is not a bad way to go.
I mean, it was highly influential. And my first crushes, Data and Captain Picard.
Data's your first crush?
Data and Captain Picard. But I was talking to someone yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and I just realized I was yesterday years old when I realized I also was crushing on Deanna Troi the whole time.
I feel like everybody was kind of crushing on Deanna Troi a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's the like, are you a Crusher guy or are you a Troy guy?
Oh, they're all
I
incredible.
mean, they're all incredible, but it was a lot like the Gilligan's Island. It's like, are you a Ginger or a Marianne person? Are you a Troy or a Crusher person?
Oh man, no, that whole show. Although I think 2020 is also very reminiscent of the episode. What was it, The Visitor?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that one where the guy, where they ended up in a whole other, I don't know, was it dimension or something? Because they had a traveler. Oh, it was the traveler maybe.
Oh yes, the Traveler sends them to the far reaches of the universe.
Yes. And
Uh-huh.
everything that everybody thinks just manifests. 2020.
Yeah, yeah. I've taken some weird, odd solace in the fact that Star Trek predicted how awful the 21st century was going to be. Because on more than one occasion, when people are time traveling, they're like, "Well, what this is 2025. Why is it so awful?" It's like, yeah, we don't talk much about this. Yeah, World War III is about to happen, gang. This is a garbage fire.
Yeah, but then the great news is that it all turns around. And
It does.
right? And we find a common humanity.
We
Or
do. And we all wear clothes with no pockets because we don't need money or identification.
Mhm.
And we're all just unitarding it all over the place.
Yeah, it's all about the unitard. That's how you know you're in the future. Like how else do you gauge whether or not you're actually in the future?
Pretty much. It's unitard or unitard plus vest if you're like a heavier, older dude.
True.
Like,
Well, unicard apparently a whole other thing.
that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. Star Trek, definitely that influenced me, and then that was around the time too that we started watching Quantum Leap.
Mm.
Yeah, and which I still say if it was on now, it would have all the awards.
I feel like if it was on now, I saw somebody on Twitter when the news came out that the streaming ratings, now that's a thing we get. We didn't used to be able to know how anything was performing on streaming, but Netflix decided, all right, let's release some information, and Lucifer was like the #1 show on streaming. And it's like, remember when we used to make shows like this where it's kind of episodic, it's a case of the week, it's kind of like good-natured, fun, detective, bantery, sexy, funny, all of those things were kind of tied together by a loose mythological thread, but you could drop in on any episode of Lucifer and know exactly what's happening. Remember we used to do that, and we abandoned it for this like weird BBC model of like 8-episode, densely sort of mythological and narrative and which are great. Like I love that, but we also used to do that thing. And that thing is actually really rewarding and really comforting and really, it rewards continual viewing. And Quantum Leap was the every week, Sam Beckett's going to jump into a new body and we're going to have an adventure and he's going to solve a problem. And then bam, he's off to the next thing. Also, he can leap his way home. Like, it's such a crystal pure premise and loaded with comedy and romance and drama and all of those things. But it seems like we've abandoned making that kind of show, which is a little sad.
It is, but hopefully everything does kind of come around in a cycle.
I know. And I'm hoping that like the news of things like Lucifer doing very, very, very well will remind people, oh, remember we used to do that? Like, and people liked it? And if we kept doing it, they'd watch it? Huh.
Huh?
Yeah. Even conventional wisdom is also cyclical, which is both sad and evident.
Oh, bless. Don't even get me started.
Oh no.
Don't get me started.
Fair enough. And I think the first time I did meet you was before that dinner with Cher, because it must have been 3 or 4 Comic-Cons ago. I was at a party that Stars threw for both Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Yes, that was our first year.
And American Gods. And I've known Neil Gaiman for a while, from a former life as a journalist and a comics nut and the biggest Sandman fan like in the world. And so I met him years and years and years ago. And so every now and again I bump into him out in the ether. And it's always like this lovely little, Mark, how are you? Tell me, how's everything going? Like, let me show you pictures of my kid. But then he just started like introducing me to people. And I was like, I want to meet Ian McShane. He's like, everybody wants to meet Ian McShane. I want him to read me things, just say things in his voice a lot.
I mean, just hearing your name in his voice is
all he was wearing like some seersucker suit that only like a dandy English gent could pull off.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to you, and you were like, oh hey, and then you bounce off because you're fabulous. And like,
this had nothing to do with any kind of fabulous. And after you had met me for over 5 minutes, that I am the biggest dork in the world. But it was really because that was like my first big, event. The first time I'd come to Comic-Con, for one. The first time coming to something as a series regular. It was just a whirlwind. So there are moments I didn't remember my own last name. So
I don't even know how I got here. I don't know who I met here. I don't know.
It all just disappeared. So that was, it was a whirlwind.
I totally believe it. What was it like the first time you met Neil Gaiman? Because I feel like, for nerds, that is a bit of like, am I sitting down with Santa Claus? Like, you bring me all the things that I like.
All the things. And here's the thing, like, Neil is such a repository of information. And first off, he has the most incredible storytelling voice ever. So as soon as he starts speaking on something, you automatically lean in and you're like, yeah, oh, okay, got it. And then there's usually some incredible history behind whatever it is. And it's just, but see, I can speak like that now, The first time I met him, I still say he must have thought I was an absolute weirdo, because all I could do was just kind of like shake his hand and nod my head and then scurry off. Couldn't even speak. Gosh, I was so embarrassed about that for so long. But then over time, it was like it started culminating words.
I'm gonna get a sentence one of these days, buddy. I'm gonna put together a whole sentence.
One of these days, maybe even a paragraph. What?
Just you wait. It's gonna be great.
But yeah, it was mind blowing. It was mind blowing meeting him. Really.
Yeah, when I was a journalist, DC Comics used to do this thing, which I don't think they do anymore, which was we're gonna have a bunch of talent in town. I was in Manhattan at the time. We're going to have a bunch of talent in town for some story summit or a meeting or whatever. And so we're going to throw a dinner or a cocktails or whatever. And we'll invite some members of the press, and we'll have like these 3 or 4 big ass friggin' giant creators, and we'll all just go out and hang out, and it'll be fun. It'll be like kind of intimate, like 7 or 8 people total. And so one night it was like me and a couple of other people that I worked with at EW who were nerds, and Neil Gaiman, David Mazzucchelli, Frank Miller, and I think Bill Sienkiewicz. I think there might have been one more, but I can't remember who that would have been. But it's fucking bonkers. Like I'm sitting, like just drinking with that's the dude of The Dark Knight Returns. That's Neil Gaiman. And Neil was, I think, Endless Nights. The sort of like one of the first follow-ups that he did of Coming Back to Sandman, which is coming out in hardcover. And so he was like, do you want a copy? And I was like, yeah, sure. It's like, well, let me sign it for you. And then he takes the book and he starts signing it. And then he starts sketching. He's like, every writer should know how to sketch at least one character in their comic, so that when you're doing a signing, you can like make it real. And so he draws me a Sandman. I'm like, Neil, stop it. You're so awesome. I want you to adopt me. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, I love my parents, but this would be super awesome.
No, that would be the best. Oh,
yeah.
And he's so great like that. Like he will always make time for autographs. He will always make time to chat with people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something to do with he is also a fan and has been a fan and understands what that energy is like. And I mean, I respond to that, and I recognize that in Kevin Smith also, that idea of like, I used to grow up loving stuff like this and idolizing people who made this stuff. And so if somebody, feels that way about anything I've created, then it's like, I owe you more than you owe me. You know what I mean? And like, I will make time. And I've seen that dude, like trying to hustle through an airport. Like he'll stop for every picture, and he'll take time, like every TSA guy, every whatever. It's like, hey man, you want a picture? Yeah, for sure. Come on in. We'll do this. You may sign something, happy to sign it. No problem. Whatever you need. And just that level of understanding what it feels like to be on the other side of that equation, and always respecting the sort of desire and willingness to make an ass out of yourself to tell somebody that you like them. And it's something to not look sideways at, something to never take for granted. And I feel like Neil is that kind of person also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And who else used to who made me feel like that was Brian. And because I remember, you're talking about those big fancy dinners. And that was first year, and there's the big fancy dinner with the big, executives and all these suits and people that could probably fire you yesterday if they felt that was a reason to. Now, look, if that's something that actually would happen, who knows? But that's what, early Yetide was thinking. And I remember sitting down at that dinner, first off thinking, how am I going to like take a bite of anything? But Brian had seated me right next to him. And then he starts talking about Star Trek. And then I was able to breathe. And we just nerded out all night. And
that's awesome.
It made me feel so much at home. So yeah, I do gravitate to, well, I mean, there's you. Obviously, I gravitate to people who are awesome.
I feel like there's something the lingua franca of nerd, is this sort of like universal language that if you can speak it and if you can recognize it in somebody else, at the very least, you have one thing in common.
Yeah.
Which is like, no, we can nerd out over something.
Yeah.
And it definitely greases the wheels and calms the nerves. And you're just like, oh no, you're just like I am. You've also spent way too much time reading way too late at night by the light of a single bulb, because you can't put this book down. Or you've also binged some show, over a weekend that you totally didn't have time for, but you did it anyway. Like, we have those impulses, and we can recognize. Game recognizes game. Right?
Game recognizes game. That's what it is. It's nerd game recognizes.
Nerd game recognizes nerd game, and it's never, or at least it shouldn't be, exclusionary. Like, it should be welcoming. It's like, hey, dude, have you seen this? This is awesome. I haven't seen that. Should I? Yeah, you should watch that. Like, it's about that sharing enthusiasm.
I love about nerds and geeks and everyone in general. It's because it's just people sharing what they love and giving the permission for someone else to share what they love, and it's all just like, it's just this love fest. And so it's always, that's why I adore Comic-Cons. That's why I adore all those spaces, because it's just a lot of joy. I mean, I remember being there to sign things, and then Nnedi Okorafor shows up, and I had to jump out my seat and just geek out hard because she's one of my favorite writers. And it was this kind of full circle thing, because then I had to go back and sign for someone else that was super excited about it. I love it. I love I wouldn't change it for anything.
That's awesome. What are you geeking out over currently? What's on your, like, oh, I can't miss an episode of this, or I can't put this down?
Yeah, the binging and stuff. Well, I recently joined Marvel Unlimited. So I'm going through all those comics, and who I'm following. I'm like the list right now. The one and only Storm.
Yes.
So that's part of reading. And then I had Black Hammer was what I was reading as well. Then I was watching, I don't know if anybody else is watching this, but okay, there are a myriad of reasons I love it. King on Netflix. And it's a Korean show.
Oh.
And okay, let me tell you all the reasons that I love this show.
Please. Evangelize. Preach.
Okay. For one, the obvious sci-fi element that is traveling between parallel worlds. Gosh, we've seen so many examples of that in these parallel worlds with different versions of everybody. But the thing that makes me so happy is that they do a scene in one episode. So maybe two people meet and there's only one line. And you see all the action that they do around that one line, and then it moves on. Well, in the next episode, a writer or somebody has decided they have not gotten enough out of this scene. So they go back to that same scene and then add lines. And it's just, I don't know why it blows my mind so much, because they will revisit it 2-3 times and go back and keep adding different lines. And you're like, wait, but last week it was, it makes me just unbelievably happy every single time they do it. I'm like, yes, we did not get enough mileage out of that scene.
We had good actors. The location was fun. Let's just do more.
Let's just do more with it, which I think is kind of interesting too, because then you have new writers come in and go, I really like that scene. What I wish happened was.
Right. Like, do we own this location? Can we just keep going back here over and over and over again? Because we will.
Yeah. So I finished the whole thing. I didn't sleep a couple of nights, but went through it.
Excellent.
Of course, I have to support my girl Wumi. So I've been watching Lovecraft. And let me see. There's I've also been doing. Well, there was a while, pretty much weekly, that I would get together with a friend over the internet and watch some geek-tastic film from the past.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Oh, so much fun. Because you can go back and do things like Buckaroo Banzai and obviously Back to the Future, Rocky Horror Picture Show, Fifth Element. It's just, we go through. And at that point, you can pretty much talk through it because
Oh
we've
yeah, yeah.
all seen it.
That's the key, because you can't watch something you've never watched before, because then you might as well just be watching alone. But yeah, they're I'd been watching with a bunch of friends Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like once it dropped on Netflix, it was, is it Avatar Tuesday yet? Then let's go. And we would just watch like 2 or 3 at a clip.
Yeah.
And we'd all seen it before. So it was cool to be able to just kind of like talk through it and over it, and then everybody be quiet when something awesome happened. And then you just keep going. And that it feels very much like a way to sustain community at a time in which community is a little far from us. You know, like, and that thing that nerds love to do, which is let's watch something we all love together. Let's all go to the movies together. Let's all, you know, like, and I miss that so much.
Yeah, that sense of community and sharing what you love.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to find ways to do that. We're trying to find ways to make our way through it. It's funny, the more and more technology we get, I feel like the more that the technology is trying to reinvent the idea of the village.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, as we have evolved so much, we're still trying to get back to that place.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and I think that the more technology we have, the more it makes me long to not need to use technology to do it. You know, the more I'm on a Zoom with like 15 people, the more I'm like, wouldn't this be better if we were just like at a table somewhere, or in a bar somewhere, or at somebody's house in a backyard? And like, it is highlighting what is absent, while also being a less than replacement.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, I have panels on it. I find I'm still struggling with, because I miss the live energy,
Mm-hmm.
people, you know, and seeing everyone. And there's something that people emit, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Like I tuned into some of the San Diego at Home stuff this year. Um, I was lucky enough to be part of some of the DC fandom stuff.
mm-hmm.
And they're slowly refining it and slowly bringing it into something that feels like a worthwhile thing in and of itself.
Yeah.
But it always has that feeling of, you know, we'd rather be doing it the other way. If at all possible, we'd rather all be 6,000 of us in a room, you know, and like you said, just feeling that charge and that those waves of enthusiasm and the excitement to be in a place to hear people that you like talk about something that you love. It's hard to channel that level of energy this way, you know, especially if it's only really a one-way broadcast, you know, like that's the thing.
We are refining it. We're getting there. We're learning.
We're getting there.
Evolving.
We're getting there.
But what are you binging? What can you not put down right now?
I'm all in on Lovecraft. I feel like the most recent episode was the I'm not going to say the best of the bunch I've seen so far. Episode 5, which was the strange case, I think it was called, or something. But it was very much like Jekyll and Hyde. It was very much about Ruby being able to take this magic potion and become a average white woman, and the dream of being an average white woman for a you know, gorgeous, effervescent Black woman, you know, is its own. Like it talked a lot about the themes of being comfortable in your own skin, and being one and wanting to be something more than you are, or having been taught your entire life that what you are is not right.
And I feel like she, you know, felt seen in many ways.
She did in ways that, like, sadly, were not being seen as herself, and she couldn't keep up that ruse. Like that wasn't a fantasy she could live with. You know, and then conversely, Montrose, you know, Tick's father, you know, is a gay man living in a time in which you could not be Black and gay and still be recognized as a man. And so had just submerged all of those impulses and desires, which started to burst at the seams in violent ways. Yeah. And so to get to watch him have a moment where he feels
There was
free.
baptism by glitter. Did you know that?
I did. The most fabulous baptism ever.
I was like, okay, I see. And I love that they had Shangela there and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there was so much in it. I mean, there's so much to unpack. I found myself deeply affected
Mm.
by everything that was going on. I mean, we know repression is a horrible thing. I was also, you know, there I had some concerns too for our indigenous and two-spirit family,
Mm-hmm.
previous episode as well, and seeing all of the things that that Montrose was having come up to the surface because he was not able to be who he was.
Mm-hmm.
It was striking. It was unsettling
Mm-hmm.
in so many places. Wumi did a fantastic job.
Oh
She's
yeah.
a fantastic actress. I think a lot of people have been sleeping on her, and they shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be. No, she's killing it. She's killing it. Yeah, I mean the show for me, like every episode is, and clearly it's meant to feel a bit like an anthology, where every episode is tackling a different format, where it's haunted house, where it's road movie, where it's national treasure, where we're just doing like treasure hunting in Anna Jones. This is Jekyll and Hyde. This is like hiding in somebody else's skin. Um, and I feel like thematically the show is firing on all cylinders in ways that occasionally dramatically it's not, or structurally it's not. And I don't know if it's interested in it. You know what I mean? Like there are some times we're just, oh, okay, we're in this location now. Are we going to explain how we got here? No. Okay, moving on. You know, like the emotional truth of it is what seems to be foremost on the producers' minds, less the kind of narrative, strict, you know, adherence to that kind of logic. And it took me a couple of episodes to kind of swing with it that way. But once like, oh, this is how we're telling these stories. Yeah. Okay, cool. There's a lot here that I'm getting and unpacking, which makes me fine glossing over some of those. Like, what? Oh, sure.
You're just like, that happened. Okay.
Yeah, fine. Okay. They were in there in Boston and now they're back in Chicago and and the car somehow also got back and okay, whatever.
Okay, cool.
Totally fine.
But yeah, it was, oof. There were some moments. I mean, there was some moments that I always laugh when I say this that were hard to watch. Mm-hmm. And the reason I laugh when I say this is because do you remember in 30 Rock when Tracy decided that he wanted to get like the whole like EGOT, it like, you know, and everything. So he decides to make a movie called Hard to Watch. Get all the awards. So whenever I'm describing anything like that, I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to get all the awards.
Oh yeah, it's hard to watch.
It's hard to watch. But yeah, there were some moments I had to take a breath there.
Yeah. I had my big quarantine binge was The Walking Dead, which I had, you know, I'd started watching when it aired and I was a weekly, you know, adherent to it, and then fell off. Like I think I moved cross country and like dropped out of it for a little bit. And then they got to a place that they were hanging out for too long. And I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll get to it later. And didn't. And so now I had nothing else to do. So let's watch 10 seasons of The Walking Dead. And so now I'm all caught up on The Walking Dead. So now we started Fear the Walking Dead, which is good but frustrating because it's now back at the beginning when nobody knows anything about zombies. And you as a viewer are like, dude, there's zombies. What the fuck? Like, did you not watch The Walking Dead? How do you not know what's happening? You know, like zombie fiction, I think, is the only fiction in which the characters don't know that zombies exist. It's like, if you like vampire stuff, everyone knows vampires. Like nobody's surprised when somebody gets, you know, is that guy exsanguinated? I think he's a vampire. But nobody believes that zombies exist in zombie fiction until they're like, guys.
Meanwhile, I'm here with like my zombie escape plan. I mean,
yes. Okay, we're gonna get to the news, but first, I feel like we should compare zombie escape strategies.
Okay, zombie escape strategies. First off, you know, as soon as stuff gets, you know, starts going down, you need to go somewhere very isolated.
Yes.
You stay out of the downtowns and the super populated areas that
Yeah. So LA is a nightmare. Just don't be in LA.
just yeah. Or if you are, you have to be like on the outskirts somewhere.
Yeah.
Secondly, which I
Mm.
have not done, but I need to learn how to fly a helicopter or some kind of aerial device,
Okay.
and make sure you're fully stocked in whatever kind of fuel it is.
Mm.
Now, you might go the route of becoming some kind of incredible scientist, so inventing your own stuff to survive,
Mm.
including a solar panel powered aerial device, which
Okay. Or find a way to bind a genius inventor person to you, by like, hey, so I got blackmail or whatever it takes. Listen, you just can't leave.
I mean, I also have survival skills, so I'm saying we should just group together all these skills, and that's a third important one.
Mm-hmm.
Put together a survival group.
Yes. Auditions will be held shortly.
Like, what are you bringing to the table? I always say, I'm like, look, I grew up in Nigeria. I know how to I know how to get my food and gather, and also, if need be, I mean, there's several skills that come from growing up in the motherland. So
Excellent. So I've already decided to draft you for my zombie
yes,
survival team.
yes.
this was an audition. Thank you. You passed.
That's really all I was hoping for from all of this. I just
Totally.
want to be a part of your team.
Yes. I have two alternate plans,
Okay.
depending on what coast I happen to be on. The East Coast, luckily, is relatively lousy with Revolutionary and Civil War era forts. And they're almost always in the water because the whole idea was like this: defend against some dumbass ship from England coming in. So you at the very least only have sort of 3 lanes that people can come into, sometimes even only 2. Your back is to the water. You have high walls. You can probably build some kind of gardening working farm inside there. So yeah, forts or houseboat. I feel as if people are sleeping on houseboats when they start thinking of their zombie preparedness. There you can absolutely put solar power on that. You don't have to go that far into the water so that you're risking fucking the perfect storm or whatever. You can grow on a houseboat. You can have enough soil. You can do it. You can filter the water. You can have your solar power. You can grow some food. You never need to go back on land if you don't want to.
I like that. For a long time I was saying, "Ooh, Catalina," and then they had it on my. It doesn't work. But then it also makes me think of World War Z. You just go into any shallow water because apparently the zombies can just keep walking through it until they.
Yeah, they don't need the air, so they can just climb up the chains and make their way in. So yeah, you don't want to be hitched to a thing. You don't want to be anchored anywhere. But if you just kind of went up and down the coast in a houseboat, the views are nice. You can fish.
Okay, you're selling me on this houseboat.
It's you'd have to kind of have it already in mind before. You need to prep. You need to become a zombie prepper. But I'm just saying. I'm
gonna go on Craigslist and look up some houseboats. So
computer, how much for houseboat?
Computer.
Yeah, Siri. I want you to find me a houseboat. Okay, so I feel like we should get to the news. News.
Is that jingle? I didn't know that was the official.
It isn't. I just made it up. Malcolm Barrett at one point had written a news theme song that he improv'd when he was a guest host for Black Man Beyond. I don't know how it goes because he's fucking Malcolm and he's brilliant. But we should find that sound clip one more time.
I'm all open. I'm all ears for that.
Yes. Today, September 19th, happens to be Batman Day. I would encourage all of you to go out and celebrate by, I don't know, not wandering down dark alleys with your parents. Maybe, I don't know. Let's keep the nuclear family intact as long as we can. What is, and there's no like real Batman sort of media dropping. I mean, we'll get to some Harley Quinn news later on, but sort of like Batman Day, I was like, well, okay, Yetide, I don't know the answer to this question, so I'll ask you. What is your favorite moment in a Batman movie?
Mm. I mean, there's so much joy to be had in all of it. But what popped up was that first introduction of Joker,
Mm.
um, was played by the brilliant Heath Ledger.
Ooh, okay.
And it just had me, because it was also an Easter egg back to the first time Joker came on the TV series, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that mask was, but it was so beautifully done. I thought it was. I went back and rewatched it. That the great reveal. You get a sense of who this individual is as they're all talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
He is the one navigating through that space and basically puppeteering the whole event. It sticks with me. It was striking. Um, it was Heath Ledger.
Indeed.
It's a moment. It's a moment. How about you?
Um, Mine is well, okay. It's the moment in Batman Returns, and it's a ridiculous moment, but I love it to death. Where Bruce Wayne, Commissioner Gordon's like, oh shit, some bad stuff has happened. I'm gonna light the bat signal, and so he sends up the bat signal, and it like goes up into the sky, and then bounces from the sky down onto a mirror, and then there's like 9 other mirrors that then bounce the light from the bat signal into Bruce Wayne's office. And he just looks in the wall, and then there's a giant bat signal on the wall, and he stands up, and like his face rises into frame. It is so ridiculous that Bruce Wayne had somebody clearly build a series of mirrors to
Yeah.
reflect a thing that's in the sky into his office. But that also seems like a total Batman thing to do.
It kind of defines him. I know. You're like, yeah, obviously,
Yeah,
obviously.
like he's prepared for everything, every contingency. You
Well,
know,
he probably drove around in the Batmobile and placed those all individually by himself.
yeah, also a thing he would have done with like measures and surveying and making sure like the staff of Ra, the light would hit just at the right way and angling the mirrors. And it's ridiculous, but gloriously Batman.
Good place. I like it. I like it a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I went on a limb there, but fuck it. It used to be a Batman podcast. Let's talk about Batman a little bit. Um, it also was the week that we got the first trailer for The Mandalorian season 2.
Mhm.
Were you a Mandalorian fan?
Well, you might know this, but Omid Abtahi is on the show, who
Mm-hmm.
is on American Gods as Salim.
Oh.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm waiting for, I want all the seasons, as many seasons as I can get,
Mm-hmm.
for a sit down and a binge, because I know it's one I'm just gonna be upset. I'm gonna be upset if I'm like, I watch 1 or 2 episodes. I'm like, where's the next thing? What am I? So I'm saving up for a major binge on this one.
A major binge on this one. The first season, I at first was a little tepid on.
Mm.
I was like, well, why is it? Because the episodes were like 38 minutes long, and I'm like, why is this so short? And I don't understand what's happening, and not enough happened. And then I sort of realized that every show teaches you how to watch it, and
Mm.
every show at some point will reveal what it's going to be. And it just took me a couple of episodes to realize that, oh no, all right, I get it. I see the show they're trying to teach. I see what they're doing. And I never mean this as a pejorative, because some of my favorite content is content for children, but
Mm.
it's a kid's show. Like Star Wars has always been a fable. It's always been a fable, with like the cleanest morality in the world,
Mm.
where the drama is super obvious, where it's also about this family, and it's like, my dad's mean. Well, my sister's cool, but I never met her. We got to go up against our dad, but we don't want to kill our dad. Somebody else has got to kill our dad because dad, he's good again. Like it's
That's
super.
exactly how it's done too.
That's exactly. I'm pretty sure that was the story break
Mm.
for the Star Wars trilogy. Um, but yeah, and so realizing that my desire for Star Wars to grow up with me
Mm.
does not mean that Star Wars is going to do that. And so Star Wars kind of has always been on a level that kids can also understand. And again, that never means that it's bad. That never means that it's juvenile. I mean, The Incredibles also exists on a level that is built for children to understand, but has a shit ton of stuff for adults. Like everything Pixar is working on these two levels. I mean, the Warner Brothers cartoons that I grew up loving are also working on two levels. The Simpsons is working on two levels. All this stuff is making it accessible to everybody. Right. And you know, when you get into stuff like, all right, well, it's trade negotiations and embargoes for taxation purposes and Senate procedurals, it's like I feel like we've forgotten that Star Wars is for kids. And so The Mandalorian actually kind of cycles it back to being like, oh, all right, it's kind of for children. Children's attention spans are about 35 to 40 minutes. Kids really love puppets. What if we have the cutest puppet in the world?
Everybody loves that puppet.
Everybody loves that puppet. And by the time you get to the end of the season, I was fully under its spell. I was fully just like, oh, no, yeah, I see what they're doing. I love what they're doing. Yeah. And that was even above and beyond the technical achievement of this show, which is, oh, no, yeah, we shot this all on a soundstage. There were no locations. We're just literally indoors for, 40 weeks of production. And so when I saw the season 2 trailer, I was like, oh, yeah, bring me more of this, because this is exactly what I want. Make it happen, please. I think we have it. Are we going to roll it? Have we started rolling it?
I think it's rolling.
Is it rolling? Is it doing things?
It is.
Oh, yeah, there's a ship. So if you've never seen any of The Mandalorian, you're like, this doesn't mean anything to me.
No, but here's the thing, it does, because I saw this trailer and it had me hooked, and I'm like, do I start earlier than I meant to?
I mean, it's doing the thing that a good trailer does, which is making it irresistible.
Yeah.
And
the cutest puppet in the world.
The cutest, like the first season, they were super like, tight about Baby Yoda, or the child, or whatever his actual name is. But here in the trailer, like, look at all these Baby Yodas. We're lousy with it. You get a Yoda. You get a Yoda. You get a Yoda. Come to your chair. I bet you there's a Yoda. And I'm glad to see that Carl Weathers is back, because Carl Weathers was a pleasant surprise. Again, you didn't see the first season, but anytime I get Carl Weathers, I'm super happy. Yeah. Because I grew up. What? Your face was like.
No, because I'm seeing moments that just have me. Wait, what? What's happening? Yeah. But sorry, you were saying?
No, Carl Weathers. I grew up a huge Rocky fan, and so anytime I get to see Apollo Creed anywhere, I'm just super happy. And like, he's easy in his late 60s, early 70s, and still a fucking badass.
Wow. Speaking of badass, this moment.
Yeah.
You don't see that often, where it's just, we're gonna go to black.
Yep. We are 2 minutes. We're giving you 4 seconds of black.
Yeah, you gotta have absolute faith in what you're selling, what you're sharing there, or else.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so happy to see what I thought, I'm pretty sure was a glimpse of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano in there. And so excited. I'm so excited.
You got me all excited for it. But
I know,
yeah, I'm going to start this early, and I probably won't sleep for the next 2 days. And then what will end up happening is then I'm all done, and which is why I'm not starting it yet, is because I need enough to last me at least a month.
I know. I mean, we have no idea how long we're going to be quarantined for. And so we have to begin to sort of ration out our goodness.
Isn't it possibly until 2021?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. So yes, excited for that to drop in October. October 30th, I think, is when season 2 unspools, and I can't wait. Can't wait. La, da, da, can't wait. We talked a bit about Lovecraft Country. Mm-hmm. And the sort of the surprising news of this week was that Jonathan Majors, who stars in Lovecraft Country as Atticus, is heading to the MCU in, of all things, Ant-Man 3, as of all characters, Kang the Conqueror.
What?
What?
First off, I'm just so happy for him.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I cannot get enough of him. It's, it's
hey now.
That moment where he, he put on the glasses and then he kind of hooked it behind his ear. I mean, that just.
Yeah, and like he's always running around in those tank tops. Like, yeah, I get it's the gun show every time Tick shows up.
Glasses for me though. The
Huh?
it's the glasses for me. So, if we can have those moments as many times more as possible.
Yeah, but I think that what seems to be unfair is
Mm,
that he can also do the glasses while wearing a tank top with those arms. It's like, dude, come on.
Listen, I am not mad at that at
I
all.
I mean, it's just not fair to everybody else. It's like, come on, motherfucker, just pick one. It's like Hemsworth. Like, why are you all so funny? Like, you don't have to be funny looking like that.
Funny and just gorgeous.
Yeah, you could be dumb as a stump and get along just fine.
No, but it was weird. There was one episode, I don't know what it was. He did something, or there's something in the way he moved that reminded me of Patrick Swayze in Ghost.
Hmm.
That had me thinking, ooh, what if he did Ghost?
I want more Ghost.
Oh, Ghost, but with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for this news. I'm so excited for him.
Yeah. I mean, and I would not have pegged Ant-Man 3 as the sort of deployment zone for Kang the Conqueror, but also totally down for it.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it all day.
Yes, all day, every day. I and for those at home, Kang the Conqueror, sort of this time traveling, would be despot who I mean, and we've had our fair share of time travel in the Marvel universe. Maybe a little too much. I don't know. But
Have too much time travel?
can you have to? We can always just go back and fix it if we have too much time travel.
Keep going. Like it. I like it a lot.
Like it. So yeah, I think that there's no release date for it yet because who the hell knows when anybody is getting back to production for anything, but I'm super excited to see. Now, way more excited for Ant-Man 3 than I was before.
Right? They did their job there. Because I mean, Paul Rudd is pretty amazing though. He is that like non-problematic, like ageless, probably a vampire.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, he's definitely a vampire, right? Like we know this for a fact.
Must be. I mean, like clearly there's a bathtub full of blood somewhere in his property that he just bathes in.
So basically, either that or some kind of painting,
Yeah.
out. Listen,
there's a painting of Paul Giamatti in his room, just like, I'm sorry, Paul, I gotta take a few more years.
Look, I don't want to be responsible for spreading fake news, but I don't know. I've got an eye on you, Paul.
Could be. Elsewhere in the Marvel universe, we got a She-Hulk. Who the hell knew we were going to get a She-Hulk? I appreciate Marvel giving us good news during a time when we could all use some good news.
Mm-hmm. And I'm so excited for Tatiana Maslany.
Yes, Tatiana. I mean, I remember watching Orphan Black and just saying, who is this person doing all of this work? And I just not since, and I'll blow her up only because she's a friend, but and I'll always say that Tricia Helfer's work on Battlestar, playing what was ultimately like 7 or 8 different versions of the same basic character,
right,
and keeping them all straight. And that was like basically her first job, and it's an immense task to ask an actor to do, and a joy to ask an actor to do, but it's a lot. And so Tatiana felt like it was the evolutionary leap of, not only am I going to play 5 characters that are different but totally alike, I'm going to do it at the same time. They're going to be in the same scenes, and I'm going to have dance parties with me and my clones, and it's going to be amazing.
I mean, for one thing, I didn't feel, yes, she got some critical acclaim, but I still didn't feel that she got, we didn't give her enough of her flowers, because what she did, I'm looking at it as a fellow actor, is just mind-blowing. But going back to Battlestar, that's another one that if it was around now would be getting all the awards, I think.
Yeah, like it's so hard to believe that a show that was written as well as it was written, starring fucking Edward James Olmos, and Laura Mary McDonnell is the best, and I just can't imagine that neither of those actors would actually get the shine that they would have gotten today.
Yeah.
And it seems that slowly we're beginning to reward our genre performers for the excellence and the quality that they do. But there are so many that never got, as you say, their flowers that they should have.
Never got their flowers. And I always think of Battlestar as kind of the precursor to the genre TV that we have right now.
Right.
If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be seeing all of these shows start to get the recognition. I feel like that's what made a lot of people wake up to the fact that you can have genre TV, genre stories, and that they can be critically acclaimed. They can be really well pieced together and taken. I don't like to use the term taken seriously because it's that, you know, that they do hold weight. So I'm hoping that we give Tatiana all the credit that she deserves with this one. I'm so happy for her.
Indeed. You know, we are the night before the Emmys, during which, fingers crossed, Watchmen continues to perform incredibly well. And I think there is a direct line that you can draw from, you know, the way we are recognizing the awesomeness that is Watchmen to the kind of content that was being produced in the sort of mid to late aughts, mainly stuff like Battlestar, you know, which is like, oh no, we're going to use this framework of genre and within it also tell these thematically trenchant stories about war and terrorism and abortion and pandemics and so forth and so on, and still have it be, oh no, it's about robots who are trying to kill us, but also be about fundamentally the human experience and what that is. And Watchmen just took it to the, again, an evolutionary leap to, oh yeah, no, it's going to be about race, but also about dudes in costumes punching each other in the face a lot. Like, oh, sweet.
And Regina King just killing it.
Regina King just killing it. So yeah, and fucking Lou Gossett Jr. Like, yeah.
It was. I feel like we need a moment of silence for just that.
I know, just for the fact that, like, is that Louis Gossett Jr.? Holy shit, that's fucking Louis, and he's killing it. Like, why haven't we been killing it with him for like 20 years now?
Right.
You know, why didn't he get the fucking like Martin Sheen career of just, I'm just going to keep doing these roles into my 50s, 60s, and 70s? Why isn't he Michael Douglas?
I mean, you laugh, but I ask those questions daily.
Those are fair questions to ask. Yeah, so I'm very excited for She-Hulk. Jessica Gao is the head writer who's leading the writer's room. She comes from the Rick and Morty camp. And yeah, I think that Tatiana as the last major character to be created by Stan Lee, Jessica Walters, aka She-Hulk, should be. And I wonder if, I have to think there's going to be some CG involved in her hulking out, because
I'm thinking that's going to be the case, unless you go the route of like the old school TV show.
I would love it if they did that.
How fun would that be?
If, like, you know, Gina Carano shows up just painted green, like, and it's like, oh, it's She-Hulk. I second your notion. I feel like that's the way to go. That is totally the way to go.
You know, Marvel, you can send the checks to me when you go with that idea, and all the money you would save on CGI.
Totally. Look at that. You can go so much faster, you know, just like, all right, She-Hulk's in, and then in comes your She-Hulk actress, and all right, Jessica Walters out. There's no rendering time. You just got to spray paint somebody green.
That's it. Simple enough.
I feel like they should take that idea, and in exchange, they should cast you as Storm.
Well,
quid pro quo.
I wouldn't be, you know, too upset with that. I mean, what? Me play Storm? Is that what I said before? No, couldn't be.
I do declare, Mr. Disney, that would be an excellent idea.
I'm no city slick a lawyer.
I feel like we can come to some arrangement on my behalf in playing your weather characters.
Weather characters, I love that. I'm going to steal that. I'm using that from now on.
Yes, my expertise is in weather characters.
Weather characters, but only if you get to write it.
Done. Deal. So we will give all of your ideas to Marvel in exchange for a one-picture deal.
One-picture deal? It's 3 pictures, yeah. No.
3 pictures. Don't think so small, son. We are riding this to the bank, I do declare. Somehow I turned into Foghorn Leghorn in the middle of that, and I'm not sure when.
Me up, and I'm loving every single second of it. But yes, Storm. I mean, if if that's something that people wanted to just throw out there, yes, please.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the campaign is small but passionate, and I feel like we can grow it. I feel like it's a platform that we can all agree on.
Oh man, especially after that pitch. I mean, it's done.
Duh, weather characters.
Come in the mail? No.
Oh, hello.
Like 8:00 at night? No, but
hello. There's a delivery for you from Mr. Marvel.
Oh, it's Mr. Marvel.
The marvelous Mr. Marvel is here to present me with a contract, a standard rich and famous contract to star as their premier weather character.
A standard rich and famous contract. Oh my goodness. I just had to keep that because that's just pure gold.
Well, I will happily take credit for a thing I just stole. But that was in the Muppet Show when Kermit wants to go to Hollywood and he finally he sings the Rainbow Connection. And then Orson Welles was like, bring me your standard rich and famous contract. And then Kermit happily signs it. And it's like, yeah. And then they go Kermit nuts. And
does the arms like that for sure.
The arms like that. So yeah, I only steal from the best. I think we have one more hit in our Marvel news, sure. Which is that Ms. Marvel, Disney Plus's Ms. Marvel show. Disney Plus, yeah. I feel like it's like the Canal Plus, but of streaming services.
Fair enough.
So Disney Plus, make it sound fancy. And they're making this Marvel show, which I'm super excited about, especially after having played the character a little bit in Marvel Avengers video game, and the fact that they're just swinging into like, yeah, we're going to tell this story about this Pakistani American Muslim teenager who also happens to be a kick-ass fucking superhero, without sacrificing either of those parts of her personality and parts of her identity in order to tell this story, is a leap forward, to say the least, because there are not a ton of shows that are based around Pakistani American Muslim teenagers. And the fact that they are embracing all of the things that make that character special, and both in front of and behind the camera. And so Marvel has hired a bunch of directors to sort of form the sort of core of their directorial unit. And it's like a bunch of, there's a Pakistani director in there. There's a couple of what seem to be at least Middle Eastern and North American or North African filmmakers, Adil El Arbi and Bilal Falah, who made Bad Boys for Life, who've been tapped to work on episodes. Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, who won an Oscar, 2-time Oscar winner in the documentary short category. And Mira Menon, who's been working on stuff like Walking Dead, Punisher, Titans, Dirty John, and Outlander, are all coming to work to make Kamala Khan. Which it's also weird because I've been told how to pronounce Kamala two different ways very recently, like Kamala Harris,
right?
Kamala Khan. Like, okay, could we get on the same page? Just.
But I gotta say, it is a pretty amazing show of actually looking to do the diverse story correctly, and actually caring about representation on all sides, in front of the camera and behind the camera, like you mentioned. And I mean, it makes me very hopeful. Forward that this is the kind of thing we're going to see, where we want truthful representations of historically oppressed individuals or historically underrepresented individuals being handled with such care.
Yeah, and it's great that it's Marvel doing it, because to a certain degree Marvel doesn't have to do it. They can, it's Marvel, they're to a certain degree bulletproof, but they understand that they can also be an example. They can also be like, hey guys, we don't have to do it and we're doing it, it because we feel like it's going to be better for it, and we could spend the money on the dozens and dozens of Caucasian filmmakers who are crazy expensive, but we can absolutely get them to do this. But what's better for us here is to give that same number of monies to people who are underrepresented, who can make this as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
And yeah, it only takes one person to start to kind of like lead the way.
Yeah.
And it's reassuring to me that it comes from a geek house.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you know what? Let's do this the right way.
I appreciate it. But I also think it's because there's representation within the executive sides as well. And I think that's part of the reason that we're seeing such well thought out examples. And that to me is the main reason we continually need to push for representation. I'm going to get off my soapbox in a second.
No,
But
stay out there as long as you want. You got the hat. The hat plays.
Okay. But it's just when you have people in positions of, for lack of a better word, power, who are also representative, I think it then starts to reflect on the talent level as well, and behind the camera. It all feeds into each other.
Yeah, and it I think the work is better for it. It's one of those, like, if you cook according to the recipe, but if you also have a little bit of the understanding of the reason why we're using these ingredients and the reasons why they're incorporated in such a way, then the food is going to taste better. And so just like understanding your own ignorance, and I have it, as well as I think we all have some blind spots. But as long as we can acknowledge them and understand them and attempt to dismantle them and replace them with actual content that seems relevant and authentic, everything gets better.
Great. So we've solved Hollywood. So
done. Right. No, we're out. Who's got some questions? What else can we solve? To pivot away from the Marvel Universe for a bit, it came down the pike that Harley Quinn is getting a third season on HBO. Have you seen any of the Harley Quinn?
I've only seen as much as you all shared with me, so I appreciate that.
Yes, it's fantastic. It's profane. It's glorious. I think you'll dig it the most. But its second season is already on HBO Max. They got a third season now, and with that news of a third season for Harley Quinn comes the news of the demise of the DC universe as a scripted production entity. And they'd been behind Doom Patrol and Swamp Thing and Titans and Harley Quinn, much of that content has been ported over at this point to HBO Max, if not canceled outright, which is what happened to poor Swamp Thing. Stargirl was supposed to premiere as an as a DC Universe shiny thing, and that went over to the CW because for some reason, and I can't explain why, Warner Media didn't have their ducks in a row when they were launching both HBO Max, a year after launching DC Universe.
Because they didn't have a conversation with us, because we had apparently all the answers.
We do. Like, guys, you only need one of these apps. You kind of don't need both. And maybe a DC specific app isn't the way to go because, but they seem to be finally correcting course. And you can't ever hold a person liable for realizing they made a mistake and pivoting accordingly. So good for you, Warner Media, for realizing that maybe we didn't need both of these things. And we're going to take the stuff that worked on one, move it over to the other. And now DC Universe will be renamed DC Universe Infinite as their own sort of comics reader app, where they're going to have some ungodly amount of comic books available. It's like 24,000 titles spanning 8 decades that you can, for a subscription, which I'm assuming will be less than you're paying for scripted content, have access to all of this stuff. It's like Comixology or Marvel Unlimited, but now it's for DC. And so, good for them for not letting a thing go thoroughly to waste, but instead of just the false start that was DC streaming stuff.
I mean, I guess I will have to get that subscription as well too. But I always feel kind of weird doing all that. Like, I feel like I'm like cheating on somebody. I have my Marvel Unlimited and I'm like, okay, I'm going through and I'm, reading all my Storm stuff. And then I'm like, but I still love you while I'm subscribing to this service as well. It's just, you're very different. It's like apples and oranges. I'm going to be
You,
polyamorous about my comics.
I feel like, in some cases, you should be allowed to love more than one thing.
This is what I'm saying. So
Yes.
I'm just going to tell everyone Mark told me to.
Mark said,
Mark,
just be willy-nilly with your amorousness and just love all things.
which is pretty much me anyway. So
Just willy-nilly.
yeah.
Okay. Here's two little quick hits. Mulan, which dropped on the Disney Plus premiere access a couple of weeks ago. According to Yahoo Finance, the Disney Mulan's purchase rate hit 29% for U.S. subscriber households, which sort of translates to, if they have about 30 million subscribers, and 29% of them paid $30 to watch it, they made $260 million in revenue in less than 2 weeks in just the US, which, if that's a theatrical release, pretty strong. Like that's probably a, $180 million opening weekend with a sort of $80 million second weekend, which is pretty strong for a movie like that. And just in the US, and you didn't have to pay a dime in distribution, and you didn't have to share anything with exhibitors. Like,
Not bad.
Not, like I know that AMC and Carmike and all of these theater chains don't really want to hear it, but it seems that there's an audience for this kind of release pattern, and they will pay their money if it's the right piece of content, and the money they pay will be kind of exactly the money you want if you're a studio. Like I think Disney's All In was about $200 million to produce it, and they made that money back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I remember getting I did not expect to get so emotional over it. Like I was sobbing, and I'm like, why am I crying? It's just,
and it's also like I'm crying, and I also share that emotion for a story that I absolutely know what happens in.
Yeah, I know what's happening next.
Yeah,
there were some fun, additions.
Totally. There were some little tweaks to the formula, and all of which made sense. There was also some like very convenient character turns where it's just like, here's where her commanding officer needs to suddenly believe her. And so he does for no reason.
I still cried through it, even though it was not believable.
Yeah, totally. It's like, and why does she take her armor off and let her hair down? Like, how is that a good thing going into battle?
So that wasn't just me, because I'm like, going into battle, I know they need to know that you're a lady, but usually, you just do the hair flip thing, like pull out the hairband, and everyone will be like, oh.
Yeah. And it's also not like when she took off her armor, suddenly she's Jessica Rabbit underneath it. It's like she's still wearing like relatively billowy clothing, and she still kind of looks like a dude who suddenly has lipstick and long hair.
It was kind of random, but I say all that and like to sound all cool, but I was sobbing.
Yeah, no, it's a relatively bulletproof story that that delivers emotional content directly to your face and tear ducts. So yeah, there is now an example for studios to operate off of, which is with the right piece of material targeted at the right audience, they will absolutely pay $30 to watch it over and over and over again. It helps that it's a kids movie. It helps that it's Disney. It helps that it's got the pre-awareness and the branding. I'm not sure if, Tenet would have worked the same way, because there are people who'll just wait. Like, parents with children in a pandemic will happily spend whatever to get them to stop at.
They just throw it at you.
Watch a thing. Just give me 2 hours. Can you give me $30 for 2 hours of my time back? Done.
But this has actually been something I've been thinking about for quite a while, even before the pandemic happened, because I was looking at the numbers of for theater goers, and the way that's really shifting. Even before we were forced to be at home, and in my mind, it had always made sense to start a model, and I'm curious who would look to that of this kind of release in the States, but in places like I keep saying Africa is so untapped. And when I say Africa, I mean Africa, like
The continent.
all the countries within there, because there was for quite a while this growth happening for theaters, and came like a bit of a status thing to then go to the theater in the way that we used to have it, I think, in the States a bit more in the past, and that it was an event
Right.
that you went out for. And so I felt like as those numbers are dropping for that here, and new theaters are being built in, all across Africa by Silverbird, that it for me, a release model that made sense was to have it available to stream out here, then in places where people were going to be willing to spend a whole lot more just to have the event of going have it there. It's but again, there's me trying to solve Hollywood.
Again, not a bad idea. Solve it. We're fixing shit.
Just some thoughts. Y'all can pay me later.
Yes.
Especially now.
In weather characters. I would like 4 weather characters, please. Our last story for the evening is, I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea or just a thing we'll all watch to see if horrible things happen. But there's a reality TV show that's going to be called Space Hero, which will send the winning contestant to outer space. It's a production company founded by Thomas Reamer and Deborah Sass and led by some people from News Corp and like Ben Silverman, who ran NBC for a while. But like a selected group of contestants will undergo extensive training and face challenges testing their physical, mental, and emotional strength, qualities that are essential for an astronaut in space. And the culmination of the competition, where they will broadcast live this person launching into the ISS, I believe it is. Space Hero is currently in negotiations with NASA to make it happen. Would you do this? Would you be a contestant on Space Hero?
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm not usually the person for reality shows, to say. But I love space. Like, I love it a lot, to the point you don't understand. Even up to last year, I was still applying to JPL. I'm like, please hire me for some kind of position. And they're like, there's this person pretending to be Yetide Badaki that keeps applying. I'm like, no.
I swear it's me.
I swear it's me. Hire me, guys.
I want space.
I want space. Give me space. I mean, on my Twitter where I say, trying to get to Mars. I'm not joking. I would be there yesterday.
I mean, I feel like Mars is probably nicer than it is here.
Probably. I mean, the weather's better. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you can stay inside. You have to stay inside. But like, it's way less crowded, less fires for sure. Earthquakes, not so many times. No viruses there at all.
No murder hornets.
No murder hornet, as far as we know.
Yeah. I mean, and it might be a place to escape a zombie thing, unless you happen to take an infected person with you and then everybody's just,
There's going to be that one guy who like doesn't declare it at the airport. It's like, do you have any livestock or living matter?
Or zombie bites?
Yeah. No.
As he's sweating profusely.
Yeah. Anybody sick? Anybody come in contact with any pathogens? No. Damn it, Milt. You were bitten by a zombie.
And you brought it to Mars. Zombies
you fucked up another planet, Milt. Why? You fucked up the last one. Now we're going to a new one. You fucked this one up too.
Yeah, but it's so when I found out about this, I was like, do I want to apply? Am I allowed to?
Could I?
Can I please go? Because I love space, and this may be one that I would end up watching, and I'm surprised they got me.
I would probably watch. I would hope that they would treat it with some level of reverence.
Yeah.
And not like, here's the Daffy puzzle challenge to figure out who gets a helmet this week.
Okay, that was bad.
There's that version of it. There's totally the like crappy survival challenge version of it.
I assume they wouldn't go that route because you're going up to the International Space Station, and there are a lot of people that you could endanger if you're not, if you don't have it together.
Yes.
That's my viewpoint on it.
Yeah, we like play it fair, play it for real. It should be like the right stuff. But sure, there's also going to be the hi, my name is Phil. I run a bagel shop in Philadelphia, and I want to go to space. Like,
Hey, I met Phil, and Phil's a great guy. I don't know what you have against Phil.
I have nothing against Phil or Philadelphia bagels, but I'm saying that I would hope that it's the best of the best and not like randos.
I agree. And part of it, though, too, is because there was a while I was doing research for
Mhm.
a film I was going to do. That kind of disappeared. But but to see how much people put in to try and get up, and people
Mm.
trying for years and have been trying pretty much their whole lives, and have serious degrees and serious uh, like know-how about all of the goings on there. It would be an absolute shame if they did not treat it with the reverence that is due.
Yeah, that is all I would ask people behind Space Hero. I don't need it to be a bunch of like we're forming an alliance and we just don't like that dude because he's a nerd and like the way most American reality TV is.
I'm
Um,
hopeful. I'm hopeful.
hopeful, fingers crossed. So yeah, that I think is the end of the news bag. Thank you, Yetide, for rolling the news with me.
Oh, goodness.
Um,
Thank you.
hey,
I can't believe I got to do that with Mark.
oh,
I'm
it's so much.
so clamped.
You were the best. And you knew more about it than Kev ever knows about anything. So you win.
I'm pretty sure Kevin wins everything.
JC, I know that you're on there. You've been monitoring the chat. Do we have any questions from our viewers that are hanging around?
I do have some questions. The first one is from Renee Descartes, and they would like to know if you were to write and direct a movie that is currently confirmed for release, which movie and whom does Yetide play?
Ooh, a movie that is currently scheduled for release. And who does Yetide play?
Okay, the weather characters.
All the weather characters. Um, okay. If I was going to write and direct a movie that's currently slated for release, I would write and direct Dune.
Mm.
And I think I would cast Yetide as see, I mean, it's easy to cast you as Chani. Like that's the easy way to go, but I feel like Lady Jessica has more in it. I feel like there's an imperiousness there to play. There's some real strength and grit, and there's a transformation of character in that. And you're also like, member of the Bene Gesserit faith, and so you get to do awesome cool shit. Like I
Yeah,
feel like that's the way I'd go.
I'm on board for that. And also I would just want a whole bunch of scenes where it's me like staring at, the camera like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then my thoughts are being
The beginning is a very delicate time.
that is my favorite part of watching like old school Dune is just what they spent, like it feels like hours of the movie of them just thinking stuff.
Oh yeah, my name is a killing word.
Right. Muad'Dib. Muad'Dib. Am I saying it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, should I have another person I can say this to? No, you're fine.
You're fine. You're fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then go into whole, fear is the mind killer. Yeah, I love it.
See, we did it. I like to imagine the production of Dune being a bunch of people just standing on set while the camera's rolling and people shouting off screen the narration that they've already spoken before. So it's like there's just dudes standing there like looking at each other. Meanwhile,
Like this.
Yes, not yet. I will not kill the Baron yet. I must wait for my time. My name is a killing word. It is the prophecy.
Very wise sign for the rich and famous contract. I'm sold.
Yes, Dune 2 Electric Boogaloo. We will totally get you in.
But I mean, on a serious note too, I would love to play Lady Jessica, like to see a Black woman in that role.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into it.
Yes, faux show.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, I'm glad that Zendaya is in the
Zendaya representing.
She's representing, but she's doing a lot of work.
I once worked with her back in the day. She probably doesn't remember because I was like, did I technically work with her? It was on her Disney show. I was this evil British lady. As you do.
As you do. My name is Madam Blimberschmidt.
Remember what her name was. And then I got flipped over by the, there was the young child that was a robot.
Oh my. I missed her show on Disney Channel.
Back in the day,
Back in the day.
Before, so it's amazing to see everything that she's doing. She's killing it.
Everybody's got to start somewhere. Okay, so yeah, that's the answer. Dune and Yetide is Lady Jessica Atreides.
Okay, Dune 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Woohoo!
All right, next question is from Duck Nguyen. They are interested in knowing what remakes you want to start today, knowing full well it may take years to actually make so that it would be relevant to the world when it comes out.
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a good question. I mean, it's a hard question to answer because there's no way to reliably predict what the world is going to be in, let's say, 5 years. There are some things that you could, at the very least say won't change that much. Sadly, there's some elements to, both American life and global life that seem to persist despite best efforts, i.e. racism, sexism, misogyny, all of those things. Yeah, lots of isms that we can't seem to squeeze out of the formula. But I think a remake that would speak to where the world is, I don't know why my head is going to Smokey and the Bandit, but I kind of would like to see a Smokey and the Bandit that is like Jonathan Majors as the bandit and like John Amos as Smokey, and like, because there's something about that story that's very like Southern and very sort of rebel yell and, Confederate flag on the license plate and all that stuff, and to find a way to subvert that while still also being about, a rebel streak and, American rebellion and all that, but having the rebels be somebody that you wouldn't imagine as the rebels, and have it also be a little bit about, the road experience of your average Black person in America, and what actually you are taking your life in your hands when you choose to speed, when you're actually staring down the barrel of the police officers. I'm going 100 miles an hour. I dare you to stop me, knowing that I won't get a ticket on the other end of that. I don't know. I have no idea what the story is beyond I got to get X across the border in such and such a time, and I'm putting Black people where they used to be white people. But yeah, I think we will keep having conversations about race and policing going forward. And if there's a way to subvert that and also still have it be charming and still have it be a little light on its feet and still have it be kind of thrilling and actiony while also being about something else. I would like my standard rich and famous contract now, please.
Wait, there's someone at the door.
Hello. It's me, Papa MGM. I've got your rich and famous contract right here.
Oh, see, I think there's one I'd love to see you write, and I think I've mentioned this one before, more on a hopeful note, because we know how in like in Star Trek, in all that mythology, there's the idea that we grew up through a certain period, and I would like to see that incorporated into a film of like, yeah, this was the inciting incident, like this was the period that made us go, you know what, we need to get our stuff together. We create a united front, and also let's say hello to the aliens, and maybe that's what makes maybe what makes the aliens say, you know what, those Earth people, not so bad. We're not going to lock the door when we drive by anymore.
I know. I do find it amazing all the time that this is also the year that the government was like, oh yeah, UFOs totally exist. Like, yeah, no, here are the pictures, here are the files. Like, fuck it. Yeah, there they go.
And everyone's like, yeah, that's cool. But murder
Yeah.
hornets. So
But murder hornets and just regular murder. Like, have you met those things?
yeah.
But the idea that, oh yeah, aliens have been coming by relatively frequently and have not chosen to stop because we are still a garbage fire.
Yeah, I think that's actually how they described us when, they did the debriefings. They were like, Earth is a literal garbage fire,
Yeah, it's like
own risk.
when we decode the music they played to try to communicate, it just says garbage fire over and over again.
And I feel like that's already the name of a band, right?
I don't know. It should be. There's garbage.
Terrestrial garbage fire.
Terrestrial garbage or extraterrestrial garbage. Either one works. Nice. I feel like we're gonna form a punk band, like
it.
Just very angry about the fact that we're a garbage fire.
Nice to meet you tonight. We are the band Terrestrial Garbage Fire.
We're here to melt your face and talk about sex and stuff. Terrestrial Garbage Fire.
Wow, all the best ideas. These are gold. These are gold.
We should give these away. Like, sorry, we're cutting the stream. We're just going to keep these ideas for ourselves. All right, JC. What else we got?
All right. Rose Twins 2x2 is interested in knowing if you could own any car from a predominantly Black or a person of color movie or genre property, what would it be? They like Blades Impala.
Ooh, okay. That's pretty good. I'm trying to think.
What can beat that?
A predominantly Black movie that had a badass car.
And genre?
I mean, they're really fucking narrowing the pipe here. Like,
or am I added on the genre? Maybe.
Yeah. Was genre in there, JC, or is Yetide just making
or genre? Person of color, Black, or genre property. I'll throw out Adonis Creed's Mustang in Creed that he loses was fantastic.
Nice. Okay. All right. Excellent. Now I feel like we got the parameters right.
Okay.
Fuck. See, here's the thing. Like, I'm going to modify the question to say it was also driven by a Black person, not necessarily a predominantly Black movie, because I want to choose Isaac Hayes' car as the Duke of New York in Escape from New York, which had the chandeliers on the front instead of headlights. It was the coolest thing I had seen. That wasn't like, because I was a big fan of Knight Rider. I was a big fan of the General Lee, problematic fave, to say the least. But that car just spoke of opulence and power and ridiculousness. Like, it's like the Batmobile. It's the Blackmobile. It's the Batmobile for like Black people. What is it? It's a giant friggin' caddy. It's a land yacht with chandeliers on the front.
Do we not have the Blackmobile yet? Because that sounds like something that could happen if it's not.
Again, good idea that we're just not, we're giving into the world.
Yeah, it's just for free.
Yeah, it's all yours. Go, be free.
I would choose the Blackmobile. I mean, it doesn't exist yet, apparently, but we're making it, I guess.
We're making it right now. Done. All right. I feel like Blades Impala is a good pick. I feel like Creed's Mustang is a good pick, and I'm going to stand by the Duke of New York A1's chandelier encrusted land yacht. All right, let's do two more, JC.
Alrighty. Darius Taylor has thrown out for many weeks in a row and is super interested in knowing who you guys think should play Static Shock.
Who should play young Virgil Hawkins? I'm of two minds. I'm of the mind of like, find somebody new and make a star. The thing that Hollywood used to do all the time, which is like, hey, would you like to meet Natalie Wood? She's great. Hey, this is, Michael Caine's first movie. Lawrence of Arabia, introducing Peter O'Toole. Like, I feel like we for IP like this, we try a little too hard to find, somebody who's already acting and already in the world, where you could just open casting call, find me the best person, find me Storm Reed,
I
you
can
know.
I can tell you a name that I don't think many people know yet, and he would be phenomenal. Young
Tell
man,
me, tell me.
Jordan Hall. Look him up if you haven't.
Mm,
Got to do a film with him about, oh gosh, how many years ago? It was called What We Found. He got to, he was a lead, and this was his first time. Before that, he had done. He has an incredible voice, so he had done Disney
hmm
touring, Disney musicals. I think it was like Lion King and stuff, playing a Simba. But he's so talented. He's so dedicated. And speaking to what you're saying about how there are these incredible people out there not necessarily getting all these opportunities, I mean, I could see him already just kill it.
mm,
I just wish more people were, giving him the opportunities that I think he so rightfully deserves. So
yeah,
Jordan Hall, look up that name because he's brilliant.
Jordan Hall.
Mhm.
I will second Nitide's pick, even though I cannot bring him to mind, but you got taste, so we'll roll that way. I'd also add Jarrell Jerome, who was in Ava DuVernay's amazing Netflix sort of the Central Park Five miniseries she made. And I'm pretty sure that he won either an Emmy or Golden Globe
Something.
for that.
Wonderful.
But yeah, he's fantastic. Um, but yeah, I like that idea of like, bring me a fresh face, bring me somebody, who I haven't seen before, who could absolutely kill this, and just engage with it in a way that, there's something really lovely energy wise about somebody who realizes that this is their thing, and that level of just investment, and like, this is my shot, and I'm going to give it everything. um and who knows if I'm going to get another shot, so I'm going to leave it all on the field. I'm going to leave everything on the stage. I'm there's no holding back. This is everything for me. And if I ever get the opportunity to start casting people and stuff that I get to write, it's find me that person who is invested in it being a success as much as you are,
Mm.
for whom it is not just another role, for whom it is some kind of dream come true. And if
Smart.
yeah, I mean, it helps you all row in the same direction, right? Where you're all trying to make a thing good, and you're all as invested in its success as each other. And yeah, it helps you hopefully build a team. It helps you build a unit that all wants to succeed. And so yeah, find a new person, find a, make somebody's life.
Make somebody's life. I want that on a t-shirt.
Make somebody's life. All right, I think we got one more question, JC. Yeah.
All right, last one is from Braden Gossi.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think deserves a biopic if they haven't gotten one yet, or who deserves a better biopic than they got?
Mm. What you got?
By now you've heard me talk about Zinga, right?
I the name is familiar, but tell the people.
Okay, she's a 17th century Congolese queen. She was brilliant. She managed to, in her lifetime, drive out the slavers. They did come back after she passed because
Mm.
people were not able to hold up. But she's literally a warrior queen with this incredible mind. She is Braveheart meets Elizabeth meets Cleopatra. And this is a woman that lived through history that we don't tend to hear about. And it's just, you see this epic picture. And the way I came across her was actually, I saw a picture that was recreated by a Portuguese Capuchin of the meeting that she had with the Portuguese to negotiate with them, which she totally, she pulled the rug out from underneath them. But they had removed all the furniture around her so that when she arrived, she would have to stand before them as a supplicant. They removed that so that she would know her place. She walks in with a retinue of warriors. They see the situation without breaking stride. One of the warriors gets down on his hands and knees. She sits on her back, does on his back, does the whole meeting from there. And that already had them thrown. Like, what just happened? So much so that they had to record it in history. And there's a kind of begrudging respect of her, because this woman was incredible. And I just want to see that film.
Now I want to see that film.
Yeah.
Why don't we have that film?
Why don't we have that film? I'm trying.
Come on, Hollywood.
Another one we have to talk about. So
yes, no, that's holy shit. That sounds amazing. That's yours, and yours is so much better than mine, because yeah, as with all things. But I'm gonna go with Hannibal, Hannibal of Barca, the great general who sort of brought Rome to its feet. Who was from Africa and who marched elephants across the Alps, and who, just he is that's the reason why we know that we have the name Hannibal. Like it's not like he was in a baby book and people are choosing Hannibal as a name for people. It's because he was a titanic figure of history, and especially military history. And that story has never adequately been told on the screen. And I would also advocate for, and I've done it before in the podcast, and I'll do it again until it happens. Alexandre Dumas, who wrote The Three Musketeers and Count of Monte Cristo, had a father who was the only Black general in Napoleon's army, who was born in Haiti, and like transcended, like he was born free in Haiti, came from money, came back to France, where everybody is free in France. Like apparently that was part of the code. Once you set foot on the French land, you're free. Enlisted in the army and became ultimately is the model for the Count of Monte Cristo. He was the good man who was betrayed by the people that he loved and sentenced to prison, who then would escape. But instead of exacting his revenge, he just went and had a quiet, small life on the other end of it. But it's an insane, romantic, daring do, adventure filled story that at one point Idris Elba was going to star in an FX miniseries that never happened. But yeah, there's a book called The Black Count, which is phenomenal and tells that story. But I mean, it is one of those. Here's the man who inspired the greatest adventure stories ever told. And he was real and he existed, and his son would document these stories and invent and embroider them with flair and daring do, merely to help turn his father, who he didn't know very much, into the hero that the world never saw him as. So yeah, I would do either of those after we did Zynga, because holy crap, that's...
Well, I want to see both of those now too. We should just make all of them.
We should make all those. Again, Hollywood, we're here, just spinning gold for you. I don't know what else you want. Wow, I feel like I could talk to you for another 3 or 4 hours.
This was so much fun, Mark.
Because we're nerds, and nerds getting to nerd out, and it's been a while, and I do miss you, and I'm so glad that you were able to break off a little bit of your Saturday night to hang out with me.
Anytime. I mean, you saw as soon as you sent. Like, yes, please. When? Where?
I'm here. Where do you need me to be? What do you got that you want to tell people about? What are you passionate about? What do you have in the world that you'll be bringing to the world shortly? What do you want to plug? Plug me some shit.
Well, I did that audiobook by Kweke Emezi called The Death of Vivek Oji. Mm-hmm. And they're really near and dear to me, because getting to do a book that's speaking to queer Nigerians, I mean, that's not something that I'd really had the chance to play with before. So that's out, and getting, really great reviews from New York Times and NPR and all of that. It's been getting a lot of great attention. Also, you might have heard that I wrote and produced something called In Hollywoodland.
I heard a thing about a thing.
Yeah, a thing about a thing. So it's been really exciting. We've been on the festival circuit, something that I produced along with Karen David from Fear the Walking Dead, and Jessica Sharif, who also directed. And we have, Dominic Burgess in it from, everything. I say with him, like Star Trek and, The Magicians. And he's just an incredible actor. We have Jen Richards, we have Luke Youngblood, and of course, Karen and I within it. And we did American Black Film Festival. We did Benton, Gina Davis's Benton Film Festival. And just now we're doing Catalina Film Festival.
Nice.
And Hollywood Reporter just spoke to the fact that we'll be in Holly Shorts. So yeah, it's been really exciting to have all of that. And so I'm also doing some more writing. So
Good for you.
Yeah, we'll see some things soon, and also some animation. So you'll see my name around. But as you know, we'll be doing a panel for season 3 of American Gods.
Yes, at New York Comic Con, right?
Mm-hmm. So
good.
There, yeah.
Now, did you guys wrap production before the nightmare hit?
Yes, we did. We just did. And it was kind of like, all right, we're flying you home now. And I'm like, really? Because I kind of want to stay here in Canada.
It's cool if you leave my bags here. Like, I missed the plane.
You should have heard me negotiating, Mark. I was like, because what if we don't send me back? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we wrapped.
Good. And so that's in October, early October, yeah?
The panel at New York Comic Con. That's correct.
Right. And they're like metaverse, I think is what they're calling their version of an online convention. So yes, I implore and encourage all of you to tune in to that panel. And if you're not caught up on American Gods, you should catch up on American Gods. I mean, because A, it's good. B, what else are you doing? But making time for good things.
That is literally the pitch for everything now. What else?
Yeah, come on, where else are you going? What are you about? That's awesome. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
On the interwebs is very easy. It's just my name. So on Instagram, it's Yetide, Yetide.
You got in there early.
Yeah.
You beat all the other Yetide Badakis.
Well, here's the thing. There apparently aren't any others. So there's that. And then Yetide Badaki on Twitter. That's Yetide Badaki.
Nice. Again, thank you so much for coming. I'm sorry we didn't have an ad to read because I feel like we might have had some fun with Manscaped.
What? I want to hear all about this. Can I use Manscaped? I have so many questions.
And there are questions that I, may not have answers for. But we didn't have to do an ad read. You've plugged all the things you wanted to plug. I'll plug these folks who make these t-shirts for me. Resistance is fertile. Go to embattledclothing.com, and if you use the code MARK15, you'll save 15% off your first order. It's feeling a bit like this is a time where resistance, we need it to be fertile because we need it to grow a potential for a better tomorrow. And that will only come if we fight for it. So everybody fight. And if you feel like buying a t-shirt, be my guest. If you don't, that's fine. That's okay. It's not keeping lights on. But thank you so much, Yetide, for coming and hanging out with me. It means the world.
Always, Mark. And it sounds like after this, we have some pitch ideas we need to talk about. So.
I feel like we do. It's time to form the production company that will take the world by storm. Standard Rich and Famous Productions.
What's that? Someone's at the door? No.
Oh, hello. Earl Disney, is that you? So that is it for this episode of Black Man Beyond, subbing for Fat Man Beyond. My name is Mark Bernardin. I'm
Yetide Badaki.
And we will see you next week when Kevin returns from the great, I don't even know what the weather is. I'm sure it's not on fire in New Jersey, but let's say the Big Easy on the Big East Coast. And yeah, we'll see you for another episode of Fat Man Beyond. I'm Mark Bernardin. Tune in next week. Same fat time, same fat channel, smodcast.com or youtube.com/Kevin Smith. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Be well. Be safe. Wakanda forever.